Kind waitress feeds hungry old couple during Christmas Eve. She watched her manager shove them toward the door. Two elderly strangers, shaking in thin coats on Christmas Eve. Naomi called them back, fed them, then paid with the $50 meant for her father's medicine. The next morning, a gift basket waited. 2 days later, the couple returned, dressed differently, asking for her by name. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now let's begin. Naomi Daniels was 20 and already moved like someone twice her age. She wiped the table, flexed her fingers once, then kept going, because stiffness cost money. The diner's Christmas lights blinked in the window like they were shorting out, and the heat inside never quite reached the back booths. She worked nights here, mornings cleaning offices, and afternoons doing deliveries when she could catch a shift. People said hustle like it was cute. Naomi knew it felt like walking around with a stone in your ribs. Her father's name was Leonard. He used to fix phones and small engines in the neighborhood, the guy everybody called when something stopped working. Then his lungs started failing. Not the dramatic kind, the slow kind that made him pause mid-sentence, palm on the wall, pretending he was just thinking. The clinic gave Naomi a list. One medicine mattered more than the rest. Specific brand, specific dose. Miss it and he spiraled. They said it plainly, like weather. So Naomi saved. Not in a bank. In a cloudy jar under her bed, wrapped in a sock. Tips, crumpled bills, coins that clinked too loud at night. 5 months of saying no to everything, even food that smelled good. She still fed people, though. After closing, when the cooks tossed leftovers into containers, Naomi packed them fast, tight lids, paper bags. She walked 3 blocks to a corner where kids lingered, not quite begging, just waiting. She handed bags over without making eye contact, like she was scared of turning kindness into a performance. One boy once asked her, "Why are you always doing that?" Naomi shrugged and said, "Because I can." Then she pointed at his shoes and told him to tie the laces before he ate. He rolled his eyes, but he did it. By Christmas Eve, the jar finally hit $50. Naomi counted it twice on her mattress, lips moving, then pressed the bills flat with her palm like she could iron luck into them. Tomorrow morning, she told herself. First thing, at work, the manager, Grant, stomped around in a red sweater that fit too tight. He liked to remind everyone the holiday rush paid their rent, like rent was a favor he personally approved. "Smile more," he snapped when Naomi passed him. People tip for happy. Naomi smiled anyway. Not for him. For the older couple at booth 6, arguing softly over pie. For the teenage dishwasher humming off key. For herself, because if she didn't, the night felt heavier. And then, close to 9, the front door opened, and cold air rolled across the floor like a warning. Every head turned. Naomi held still. The couple stood just inside the doorway, letting the cold close behind them. They did not rush. The man's shoulders were slightly hunched, like he was bracing for something familiar. The woman held his arm, her thumb rubbing small circles through his coat sleeve, a quiet habit built over years. Their clothes were clean but thin. Not homeless, not comfortable. That in-between place people pretend not to see. Grant noticed them immediately. He always did. His eyes flicked to their shoes first, then their hands, then their faces. He didn't lower his voice. "We're full," he said, even though 3 booths sat empty near the window. "Christmas rush. You understand." The woman opened her mouth, closed it again. The man nodded once, already turning, like arguing had stopped being useful a long time ago. A few customers watched. A guy at the counter muttered, "Damn." Someone else laughed, sharp and quick, then went quiet when nobody joined in. Naomi felt it before she thought it. That tight pull under her ribs. The same feeling she got watching her father cough and pretend it was dust. She stepped forward. "It's fine," she said, not loud but clear. I'll take them. Grant snapped his head toward her. Naomi, no. We're not running a shelter. She didn't look at him. She smiled at the woman instead. You can sit here, she said, guiding them toward a booth near the back where the heat worked better. The woman's eyes widened like Naomi had handed her something fragile. They sat. Slowly. The man's knees cracked when he bent them. He winced, then smoothed his face. Menu stayed closed. Naomi brought soup first, then bread, then plates that smelled like comfort instead of effort. The couple ate like they were being timed, then slowed down once they realized nobody was watching them leave. Thank you, the woman said softly. We'll pay what we can. Naomi nodded like that was normal. Take your time. She rang the food in under her number. When the bill printed, she stared at it longer than she meant to. Her fingers brushed the pocket where her locker key sat. The jar under her bed flashed in her mind. $50. Morning. Medicine. Grant passed by and paused. Don't, he said quietly, warning sharp in his tone. I'm not covering that. Naomi swallowed. She went to her locker anyway. The metal door squeaked. She pulled out the sock, unfolded it, counted once. Her hand shook, then steadied. At the register, she slid the bills across. The drawer closed with a dull thud that felt final. She carried the receipt back. You're all set, she said, like she was talking about weather. The man stared at her. Really looked this time. The woman's eyes filled, but she blinked it back. You didn't have to, she said. Naomi shrugged. It's Christmas. They left wrapped in warmth that wasn't just food. Naomi watched them disappear into the dark, then leaned against the counter, breath shallow. Her phone buzzed. A clinic reminder. Pick up tomorrow. She turned the screen face down and went back to work. The door closed behind the couple, and the diner sound rushed back in like nothing happened. Plates clinked. A fork dropped. Someone asked for more coffee. Grant exhaled through his nose and walked off without saying a word. That was worse than yelling. Naomi wiped the counter twice in the same spot before realizing her hands were shaking. She finished the shift on autopilot. Smiles on cue. Orders repeated back. Her body knew the routine even when her head drifted. Every time the bell rang at the window, she flinched, half expecting Grant to call her name again. When the doors finally locked, Naomi walked home instead of taking the bus. The cold cut through her jacket, sharp and honest. She welcomed it. It kept her awake. At the apartment, the lights were off except for the kitchen. Leonard sat at the table, shoulders rounded, a mug between his hands. He smiled when he saw her. That careful smile meant to protect her from worry. You eat? He asked. Yeah, she said too fast. She set her bag down slowly, like sudden movements might break something. His breathing sounded rougher than yesterday. Not dramatic, just enough to notice. She lay awake that night counting hours instead of money. Every cough from the next room landed heavy in her chest. She told herself she would figure something out. She always did. That promise felt thinner now. Morning came early. Naomi called the clinic before she even brushed her teeth. The voicemail picked up. She hung up without leaving a message. She already knew what they would say. At work, nothing changed. Grant complained about inventory. A regular tipped her $2 and asked if she smiled in her sleep. She smiled anyway. That was the deal. 2 days passed like that. Quiet, uneventful. No cosmic correction. No surprise call. Naomi started to believe the moment had already passed, that kindness sometimes ended exactly where it began. Then, during a slow afternoon shift, she noticed something on the counter near her station. A basket, wrapped neatly. Oranges, bread, a small envelope taped to the side. She looked around, confused. What's this? She asked the dishwasher. He shrugged. Was here when I came in. Figure it was yours. Inside the envelope was a card. No name. Just a short line, in careful handwriting. Thank you for seeing us. Naomi stood there longer than necessary, fingers pressed into the basket handle. Grant walked by and paused. "Don't get weird about it," he said. "Probably church folks." She nodded, though something felt off. Not magical, just unfinished. That night, Leonard's breathing worsened. Naomi sat beside him, holding his hand, pretending calm. When he finally slept, she rested her forehead against the edge of the bed and closed her eyes. She wondered briefly if she had made the wrong choice. Then she pushed the thought away. A week passed before the bell over the diner door rang in a way Naomi noticed. Not loud, not urgent, just different. She looked up from pouring coffee and froze. The couple stood there again. This time, they were unmistakable. Not rich in the obvious way. No glitter, no flash. But their coats fit correctly. Their shoes were clean leather, worn with intention, not neglect. Their posture had changed. Straighter, calmer, like people who expected to be heard. Grant noticed too. He adjusted his sweater and stepped forward, smile already forming. "Table for two?" he asked. They shook their heads. The man spoke. His voice was steady, practiced. "We're here to see Naomi." Grant's smile slipped. "She's busy." The woman's eyes moved past him. She met Naomi's gaze across the room and smiled. The same gentle expression, but now it carried weight. "We can wait." Grant hesitated, then waved Naomi over with a sharp flick of his fingers. "Make it quick." Naomi approached slowly. Her heart thudded, not from excitement, but confusion. "Hi," she said. The man gestured to an empty booth. "May we?" They sat. Naomi stood there unsure. The woman reached into her bag and placed a slim folder on the table. She didn't open it yet. "We owe you clarity," the man said. "Not thanks. That comes later." They told her about the organization first. How long it had existed. What it funded. Clinics. Schools. Quiet things that didn't make headlines. They spoke plainly, without drama. Then they told her about the test. "For months," the woman said, "we went where kindness was inconvenient, where no one expected cameras. We watched." Naomi frowned. "Why?" The man folded his hands. "Because we're old. Because we have no children. Because we needed to know who would choose compassion when it cost them." Naomi shook her head slightly. "I didn't know any of that." "That's why it mattered," the woman said. They slid the folder toward her. Inside were documents. Medical invoices already stamped paid. Leonard's name printed cleanly at the top. Naomi's breath caught. She touched the page like it might disappear. "All current and future treatment," the man said. "Handled." Naomi's vision blurred. "I can't," she started. "You already did," the woman replied. "You paid first." Grant hovered nearby, pretending to clean. His ears strained. When he saw Naomi's face change, his own tightened. "There's more," the man said. "Your education. Any field you choose. Fully funded. No obligation except that you keep being who you are." Naomi laughed once, sharp and disbelieving, then pressed her hand over her mouth. Grant stepped in. "Is there a problem here?" The man finally looked at him. Calm. Assessing. "No," he said. "We're done." Grant opened his mouth, then closed it. Something in the man's tone stopped him. When they stood to leave, the woman squeezed Naomi's hand. "We didn't save you," she said. "We recognized you." Naomi watched them walk out, the bell ringing softly behind them, the diner suddenly too small for what had just happened. Naomi's life did not change overnight. That part mattered. She still worked shifts, still rode the bus, still counted hours, but the pressure lifted just enough for her to breathe. Leonard's medicine arrived on time. His coughing softened. He slept longer. Some mornings he even joked again, weak but real. Naomi enrolled in school quietly. No announcement, no victory lap. She studied like someone protecting a gift, not spending it. Late nights turned into early mornings. Notes filled cheap notebooks. She skipped parties without resentment. Focus became her new habit.